I almost started it with, and we're back again with our next video, but I feel like I've done that like 8 times in a row, so I'm just going to point it out instead, and hopefully nobody noticed it before or whatever.
But you kind of just said, and we're back again with our next video. So
oh, I know. You know. It's all for effect. It's all for effect and to make fun of myself. So, we're watching Spirit today. We got a really cool guest we've been talking to for about a week or two that trying to get him on, trying to align schedules. Everybody's busy post drum corps and everything, but
all band.
Yep, all band right now, fall band and BOA and high school and all that good stuff. But before I let Evan take it away, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Fantini, and with me as always is
Evan Worrell.
And comment, like, subscribe, share the video. You all know the drill. On podcast services, check it out on YouTube or vice versa. If you want to support us financially at all, patreon.com or the join button right here on YouTube. Give us a follow on Facebook or Instagram so you never miss any new content. AgedOutPodcast.com now is up and running. If you want to grab yourself a logo t-shirt or a logo sticker to support us that way. And then Aged Out Fundamentals. Drum every day to those things. They will get your hands in great shape, your mind in great shape, build consistency, sound quality. They're rhythmically perfect. It's a great training tool. It's like an at-home yoga video kind of deal. Link to that in the video description. We're adding 2 new ones soon, Paradiddle Diddle and Puttada. As soon as Adam Norris, yes, I'm going to call you out, Adam, in case you watch this. Need those files, please. Yeah, Evan, grab it and we'll go.
Yeah, joining us from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, is Mr. Adam Wiencken. What's up, Adam?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad we got linked up by a mutual percussive friend who was like, hey, you guys should chat with Adam. We're like, happy to. So that's the wonderful thing as this channel grows, we kind of are able to connect with more and more folks, you know, like we connected with Aaron in the last video and Adam, who we just, you know, started chatting with tonight. So how's it going, man? Tell us a little bit about, like, obviously I said you're in Broken Arrow, kind of your background, and yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. First of all, thanks for everything that you guys do for the activity. I know so many current students, like my current high school students and our kids at Spirit, and even like, you know, family members that listen to your podcast and they feel connected by what you guys do. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And, you know, I know our kids love listening to you guys and seeing what you have to say and, you know, watching videos and stuff. So yeah, I'm at Broken Arrow High School, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I've been the percussion director here since 2011, so I'm starting my 14th year.
Nice.
You know, run everything with percussion, write the battery book, help design the marching band show. I founded the indoor group back in 2015. So last year was our 10th year. So we, you know, it's a year-round thing, man. So it's you know, it's BOA right into WGI, right into DCI, and repeat. You know, like
never
literally.
stops.
We're literally meeting about our indoor program in like a couple days to flush everything out and get that thing going. So I've been here for 14 years. It's a great opportunity. I've loved everything I've been able to do here. I marched in the Madison Scouts from 03 to 06 in the snare line. And then I marched at the Cavaliers 07, 08, and aged out in 08.
Wow,
we had
Ted and Dan.
Yeah, Ted Leaf, Dan Twyford.
So it's a blast with those guys. And then went right into teaching drum corps, taught for a couple years at Crossman. I helped out at Troopers for like a week to fill in for Derek Fields in 2011. Did a little bit of Viz teaching at Vanguard with the Drumline in 12. And then at 2013, I went to Cadets to teach the Drumline at Cadets from 13 to 16. 17, 18, did some consulting work with Blue Stars, just kind of come in, help whenever any way I can. And then I got a call to come to Spirit of Atlanta as the battery arranger after the 2019 season, and of course accepted. And also I'm the battery caption head as well, so I run the caption and write all the battery music. Been there since after the 2019 season until now.
Heck yeah.
Cool.
And then Matt, I don't want to mispronounce his last name, so writes the front. I'll let you, Matt. Is it Filosa?
Filosa has been riding with us through this past summer. He is not returning for this summer. We'll have a new front ensemble arranger. I'm sure that in the next week or two we'll have some updates of design and who will take Matt's place. But I love working with Matt. He actually is one of our designers for Broken Arrow Indoor. Him and I and a couple other folks, and we all put everything together. So I'm still glad I get to work with Matt in that capacity. But he resigned after the season, so happy for him and happy for his decisions. Gonna miss him, but excited for going into 2025 and what we have cooking. And we're gonna get going here really, really soon.
Sweet. Well, let's dive into like the stuff from this past summer. We made some references that we'll throw out at you to get some feedback on just when we did like our reaction, and I think that one was pretty early season. So this one's definitely much later. So a lot of improvement. I did watch a little bit of it as a review. So yeah, let's jump in.
Yep. Before we do that though, Innovative Percussion, go subscribe to the IP YouTube channel. Link to the original video from their channel in the description. Go support them, subscribe, like their video, give it some views, give it some traction with the algorithm. I want to support everybody for letting us use these videos so graciously. So, all right, let's jump in.
Pretty sure this is from Prelims Day.
Yeah. Yeah, good roll at the end there.
We'll finish this segment.
Yeah, yeah.
God, Ian's got good beats on.
What was that vocal?
Is that AQ vocal?
I know. Was that an AQ vocal in there?
It was.
There's some Quest kids in the group.
No, actually, there aren't.
Okay.
They have a lot of friends in AQ though.
All right, we talked over the end of this phrase.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up and we can talk for a second, and then we'll let it finish out. But I have to ask, too, how tall is this quad player?
Steven is like, I don't want to get it incorrect. He's at least like 6'7" or something like that.
So TJ Chiquette, we watched you all with him early. TJ, I think you were right or closest on your guess.
So obviously,
5. I know that.
Yeah.
obviously with the book, it started. This is the very beginning of the show, correct?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
So obviously, it starts very segmented. Like section features tenor, snare, bass, and then builds into a full battery unison. Was that a decision that was made pretty like early on? Like, hey, we want to start the show this way. And
I can tell you honestly, in the middle of the summer of 2023, I was like, I want to start the next summer with a drum solo. And I know, like, I didn't even know what the show was going to be, or if I was even going to be retained at Spirit. But I just knew how I wanted to start it. I wanted to start aggressively and then really just get it all out there right away.
Just set the tone.
Yeah, and it's a risk, man. Like,
for sure.
You don't play a note for like 40 minutes, and it's like, okay, now play some of the hardest material we have in the program.
Well, we've talked about that on here before. You know, you have, like you just mentioned, the transition period from lot to show, and it's in a lot of shows in history, like, you kind of get some unjudged stuff at the back of the field, maybe to kind of hit your drum again and like dial your ears in for a second. To open up like that, it's just like, all right, hopefully you remember how to play. Here you go. Like, good luck.
Well, I think that kind of no-nonsense approach is like they didn't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? So it was that there was no coddling there. It's like, hey, this is the way that it is. We're going to embrace it, and let's get really good at it. And honestly, we didn't have to make a ton of adjustments. You know, a couple little things from five-lit groupings to fours, or add a couple eighth note checks so that the space wasn't crazy anymore. Like, very minor things. But that's pretty much what was written in like December. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So
it's always
I was
a good feeling.
I was really proud of them. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know how the show was going to start with, you know, what show we were going to do or anything like that. But we started talking about, you know, how we wanted, what kind of impression we wanted to make at the beginning. And I just kind of knew I wanted to start with the tenors. I just wanted to start right away with something that was pretty clear to hear. And it made sense to me to try to make it feel like it was going somewhere, to go segmented. And then obviously something more full battery because we wanted it to feel like it was getting to a climax before the horn line came in. So I just felt natural to kind of start it that way.
Yeah.
I always like the mid voice too, the quad voice as like kind of an introductory, even if it's like a tempo change or something, because it's not, you know, it's intense, but it's not as abrasive.
It's a
as
warmer
snares,
sound. Yeah,
and it's not
sound.
as boomy, so it's easier maybe to establish tempo for the rest of the ensemble than like the bass drums. But
And
Yeah.
sometimes, depending upon the environment, it might be one of the hardest instruments to sample. I mean, bass drums, I think, is for the hardest for sure. Like, it's easy to sample snares because of how it cuts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, okay, here's the tenors and they're right here, we're going to give you tenor exposure right away. And then just stand here and take it in. You know what I mean? So that was another thing too, is we wanted to give ourselves more opportunities to be evaluated. So I knew like we needed to start the show near the front, and I wanted to start with some kind of percussion feature. I tried to pitch like some sort of like kind of on-field warm-up that would seeg right into this. It didn't end up working, kind of got canned, but I at least was thinking that way too. But like I said, the kids they really stepped up and were like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and they embraced it and just kept getting better at it.
Maybe on field for 2025.
Yeah,
right.
Put it in the back pocket for a show it might work with. We'll finish this phrase and then see where it goes. Great bass
nice
underneath
AB.
all that.
Little Shirley Murphy action.
There was a part in there, I don't know if it was like a turnaround putted a figure where the basses mirrored it, and every time it turned around back to the right hand, it seemed like it went to a different drum, so it had like a tonal shift. That was really cool if I heard that right. Did I get it right? Is there that in there?
There's some T3s in there. I think that might be what you're talking about.
Probably.
Yeah, so obviously right away we just had like a minute and whatever, 30 seconds of Spirit 2024 in your face. Like you're almost branding yourself for the season right off the bat, branding yourself for the show, like, which is cool. Like, this is how we're going to drum. This is how we're going to play. And, you know, it is very aggressive. Early on in the season, you know, I think it was Mike had made the reference of like, you know, very similar to Boston's feel, or at least like kind of what Colin does, which makes sense with a lot of your background and just, you know, how you were maybe inspired by some of that writing, you were exposed to it. Do you feel that when you're composing and arranging?
Yeah, I mean, Colin is an incredible influence on me, personally, professionally, as a composer and arranger. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned so much from him, and I'm so grateful I got to march under him as a member, and then also teach alongside with him. And he still is somebody that I can go to and ask questions. You know what I mean? So, absolutely. And, you know, I think that any of us that have marched in particular places are going to have that influence. Whether it's teaching or if you get into writing, great, you know. But I know for me, like, there's some stuff in there that I'm kind of like, I think in my head, like, I know what I want to hear, but maybe what would Colin write here? You know, and I kind of ask myself that. Or what do I want? What do I want to feel more in terms of what I want the audience to feel? How do I want it to look? I'm a very visual person too. But sometimes I know like what I want it to look like, and then I have to figure out what that rhythm is that I just kind of figured out. You know what I mean? So, you know, but there's also stuff that, like, you can probably tell sort of when the horn line will kick in. A lot of those big open rhythms. Well, that was something that we did a lot when I was marching Cavaliers with Casella, and I always liked that, like something. You know what I mean? Like, especially like that 04 Vanguard vibe. I mean,
you're talking to a couple of Casella fans here. We know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, I try to pick up as much as I can learn from anyone I'm able to be around, and I think that that's part of, okay, if I learn all of these things and these influences have on me, and I do a lot of writing for, you know, fall marching band and a little bit for indoor with of course my own group really, but, you know, I've had chops to be able to just develop whatever my voice is. I don't even know what that really is, but for sure, man, like, it's a big influence on me.
And obviously the source material is going to dictate a lot of things too. Like,
yeah. Well, the other thing too is, like, later on we'll see the beginning of the closer, and that is very different, you know. But that's the other thing too. I've always tried to provide, especially at Spirit, is I want a variety. I want to try to give you a little bit of variety with the composition, and that's like that really long tenor moment that happens at the beginning of the closer is a very different way of playing and writing. It's a lot of over the bar line, a lot of mixed meter, a lot of hand speed changes. So it's just different, you know what I mean? But like, I never was in Paul Rennick's Drumline. I got to teach with him, like teach the drumline visual, and I got to be around him. But like, there's some things where I think about like, man, like I want something and that maybe Paul might think of here. So I think that you're inspired by people that inspire you, and you're the one that's putting the notes in the page,
Right.
but I think that there are certain things where I'm like, I'm in a vein here of what I'm trying to go for. So I've never been able to avoid all of my influences in the writing. It is what it is, man. But
I think it's
no
impossible.
matter what, it's still you.
Mhm.
We're all gonna have influences. I mean, how many rock bands are influenced by the Beatles? You know what I mean? Like it's just it's fine.
Even different other art forms that isn't music, like just painting, sculpting, they're all influenced by the greats, and just like throughout history, it all builds off itself. So it's completely understandable.
I remember. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you put it out there, that's your voice. You can obviously tell influences, and especially if you have a hunch of a look or some figures, you're like, okay, well that makes sense. There's a little bit of that flavor there. Of course, like I'm not running away from that, but I don't have a score from 2005 Madison and 2008 Cavaliers, and I'm you know what I mean? It's not that, but I know like there are certain things I want to play, and there's some figures, and sometimes I can go a different direction, and some of the stuff I wrote like 5 times before it went to the members, and I finally got a version that I was happy with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and like I still have them and stuff, like licks that I would wrote, and I could tell like what I was drumming at the time. Like it's like, oh, I was very clearly drumming a lot of Tom Monk's beats because it's like fast triplet rolls into some grandmas into like Flam Dragons on 3. Like that's the lick.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh, I was playing a bunch of Phantom licks because it's like some like upbeat like like the 06 thing or something. It was like, oh yeah, I was mimicking this, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. If you're a drum set musician, man, you're gonna listen to certain drum set players, and you're gonna start to figure out what they're doing, and that's gonna influence how you play. It's the same thing here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Heck
Fully
yeah.
agree.
Let's get some more Spirit. I like that. Nice. Yeah.
There's some funky hand speed changes in that snare lick.
Little cadets right
Of
there.
course, for the cap.
It was fun to catch all those throughout the summer. Good accent rolls.
That's a tough tempo to hold on to those rolls
Oh,
like that.
totally, dude. It's like 160.
Yeah.
I hate writing that tempo.
Mm-hmm. Really got to hold on to them, but you can't hold on too much or you're slow. It's like a weird.
Ooh, tasty. This to me is like the perfect setup for like balance and blend. The quads in the front.
It was hard in that particular drill set. They're actually a little more spread out than they are in the lot. So that was a form we had to like really figure out how to play in, especially to make sure we could balance it. Because as you guys know, you can play everything rhythmically perfect, but if the tenors overbalance, like it never sounded right.
Right,
you know what I mean? But then I also wanted that voice to be the lead voice. A lot of times I'll tell, my kids at Broken Arrow or the Spirit members of like, hey, the tonal voice, the bass drums, the tenors, that's the voice I want to hear. Snares, it's not you. I want to hear like I want to hear that, or I want to hear the bass drum part on top of it. You could probably catch, I like doing a lot of bass drum stuff on the top of something, like to create more momentum. It's just something that I have always liked, and it seems to always work and get applause or positive reactions, because I like hearing that motion of the quote unquote melody of the battery. So that particular form like was like, okay, this should be fine, but it was also kind of like a snake arc kind of thing. So the listening responsibility was a little funky getting into it. And it started with that like hock it, like buckle, buckle, buckle. So like that was definitely like, hey, if we guys don't nail the buzz entry, we're screwed here. So
We're
there's a lot of cut, reset. Let's get the entrance there. You know what I mean?
No,
I was gonna say the early videos you see us like doing this. You know what I mean? Like, listen, come on.
No, it makes sense you would use the bass drums that way, because just the pitch changes drum to drum, layering on top of just that stagnant snare tone, is just going to by itself give it more direction in general as to the audience. Yep.
In that section too, you're talking about like variety was obviously much different than like the opening segment where it's like all very vertical as far as like, snares and flatline are playing a lot of full double stroke rolls with the basses. There you have more like nuance and trade off those kind of like little touch and the hock it, the accent trading. So yeah, like that.
We try to pick source material that's going to also allow us to treat the battery voice in different ways too. Yes, very tempos, and sometimes I don't like it, but I know that it's going to push me to get other, hand speeds going and think of it differently. You know what I mean? I like that challenge, because that's how like cool things start to happen when you're in an uncomfortable zone. I know for sure the beginning of the closer was like that. It took a long time to kind of get that right, but like I said, like we want to try to find stuff that's going to give us as much variety. I don't want to go into critique and they're like, yeah, you're just kind of playing the same tempos, kind of the same stuff for 11 minutes. I want to make sure that not only in vocabulary, but style and how we play, like music's different. You got to play the music.
Right.
We're not just playing drumline beats for, the show. Like you got to play the music, not to mention you have to think about what are we trying to say as a drum corps here in this production? What we're trying to say in the opener is going to be different than what we say in part 2 or part 4 or part 5 or whatever. And then we have to try to align ourselves musically to make sure we're all going towards that goal. You know what I mean? So that was, we always try to find stuff that's going to give us that, and find music that's going to give us a wider range of material.
Yep. It's all strategy.
Hey.
This is one of my favorites from the summer.
Ooh, that was good listen.
See bass drums again there. Here again.
Tons of flam work throughout the beginning of that phrase too. Again, yep.
Again here.
Yep. I love. Wait.
Really had to hold on to that double stroke roll, Lord.
Right.
Bass.
Yep.
Going nuts under the whole thing.
Yeah, I love that combination of the flam tap and Swiss Army stuff.
Yeah, that always felt good in my hands. Like it's like the like all that Swiss flam tap stuff. Like
as an audience member, it makes it even cooler when you layer the bass unison, emphasize the flams where they are. It just gives it so much power.
Like it just has
so
this,
cool.
like frenetic feeling. And there's still different like patterns that I really want to kind of take that and explore with and develop. But I've always liked that. Like I heard the Crossmen do that back in like the early 90s. You know what I mean? Like Thurston and all those guys. It's kind of where I heard it. And I was, I come from a drum corps family. So I was watching like 92 was like when I really started watching drum corps. So like I remember like the 92 Crossman Drumline, even as a little kid, a little, 6-year-old. But like I've always liked that kind of energy and how it's like, well, it's all just triplets, but how it swims and how it's going just feels
with
like
each other. And
that's what I wanted. I wanted that kind of, and again, in the music that in the show, that's when our core was enveloping the creatures to try to like, take them down. So we're trying to create all of this tension. So again, having that momentum and tension was what we were going for.
There's like some exercise I learned. I think it's called like bodily functions, but it has that 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 flat tap tap. So it's and I always just love that because you can rip it fast too, and it
Yeah.
just feels great.
Well, then then you can move into groupings of 5, like like it's all just triplets, and it's all just you know just flam figures. But again, like okay, now it's like can you add in a little? Then we go to like to the 5-lit pattern, but it's still in triplets. You know what I mean? That was another thing too. Is working with the students, trying to figure out what their strengths are, and trying to make sure that we were still kind of doing that. Again, as much variety as we want. I can't write 4 or 5 movements that don't feel like they're the same person or the same approach. So, I wanted to make sure like, okay, what are some things that we can kind of harken back to kind of keep this all together? There's a couple figures in here throughout, especially snares and tenors that we kind of keep coming back to because the students were doing a really good job performing it. So, it kind of just fit, you know what I mean?
Definitely you got to lean into your members' strengths. I mean, you have to evaluate the level they're at to know what to write or what you can write. And then, like you said, if you identify something that the group is really good at, why not lean into it? I mean,
like Shirley Murphy's, we have those like back out. It's accent, diddle diddle tap, accent, diddle diddle tap. Like, but we weren't really good at it at first. But again, like anything, we make up these checks exercises in pre-tour. And then like, okay, you just do that now. Okay, then their hands know how to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I feel like that was one thing that Tim Jackson always did really well with us too. Is like he would teach us a lick and it's like, well, what is it like? What do you guys feel like you're instinctually wanting to do? Like, are you wanting to put like a slight tenuto emphasis on this, or like, what height does feel comfortable? Like, obviously there were times where he's like we got to play low, but like maybe we don't play like 3. We're talking like 4 plus, give a little bit more rebound, like stuff like that.
Well, I'm like insanely particular about when they start to learn the music, because I'm a very visual learner. I know what I want it to look like. So when I watch them in camps with the text, I'll like cut and be like, no, let's see these 3 counts again. I'll get the sticks out and I'll do my thing. And so I'm pretty particular about that. But sometimes I'll walk up and I'm like, that's not really what I had in mind in terms of the control or whatever, but they're doing such a good job with it. Like that snare break earlier on before they turn around, like they kind of made that their own a little bit. And I just like, hey, all right, I'm buying that. You guys just go with it. Like I don't need to get in there and adjust something just because I want it to look a certain way. But sometimes organically it goes that way with the members and you kind of just go, okay, cool. Let's go with, and I think they know like, all right, well, they know that I trust them if things are going well to not try to just force the issue just because I want to, but they also know that I'll pick my battles. You know what I mean?
Right. All right.
Like this is a hill we're dying on today. Little felt tips.
Rubber tip. Those are the TS. Those are Renix tenor sticks. So there's a rubber tip on the end, and they switch to wood tips on the other side.
Lots of re-attacking.
So another mid-range roll, man.
Lots of control.
Tons.
That's some cool change.
It's a long phrase.
Yeah, very long phrase.
That's some cool, like, you're talking about like visually what you want it to look like, because there's obviously an intent with like a lot of the single hand stuff where you could have like used 2 hands and like move, but you were like, no, I want to like
yeah, and I wanted that phrase to be just as musical as we can possibly make it, and not like we're not trying to be musical in other places, but I really wanted to try to make sure we were as expressive as we could be. Again, the nature of that part of the program was, about entwined. Like we're coming together and we're embracing this world we're with these creatures, and it was kind of a delicate, sensitive moment. And I was like, cool, let's do one more tenor thing, and then let's layer the bass drums in it so it kind of has a little more momentum to finish. And I love that implement because it gives you the opportunity to kind of give different textures within the phrase. And there's a lot of kind of start stop, but I wanted to still feel like it was going somewhere, and a lot of this and a lot of breathing, you know what I mean? Kind of a very sort of an indoor moment, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
that was like 144, 148. So some of the hand speeds there are pretty wicked.
Yeah.
But that was another one that took about 4 or 5 passes, and I actually worked with with our tenor tech Thomas Young on that. I kind of sketched it, and I said, "Hey, I described what I wanted. Here, take a look at this. Let me know what you think. Send it back to me." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I like some of the stuff. How about this?" So we kind of did it together, and I was really happy with how it ended up. I know it goes on forever, but hopefully when you're seeing the show especially in context with the narration, singing, and the front ensemble, it feels right. Isolated, it's a little funky, but as a full ensemble, I think it makes a little bit more sense. But then, like I said, it goes on forever, but hopefully it doesn't feel that way when you're listening to it.
No. I mean, it was interesting the whole time. And I mean, you have to write for the show, obviously. We've heard so many say that on here. It's like, you aren't the first one to be on here and go, yeah, it might be a little awkward by itself here in the lot, but it was written in context of what the brass is doing or the visual from the color guard around it, and it's all plays off of each other. So I do want to ask one thing, too. You mentioned one of your tenor techs. I see like 5 faces on your tech staff that probably aged out of Boston in the last year or two.
Yeah.
Like, how did that end? Is it just from their Colin connection? They all just kind of were like, let's all go to the same place and try and teach there, or how did that come about?
So from last year's Boston group to 2023, 2 of those tenor drummers aged out together, and they were with us at Spirit in 2021.
Okay.
They both are Florida members, and they did Infinity. So, I always want our kids to come. I keep calling them kids, the members. I always want the members to come back to Spirit. But I understand if they want to, spread their wings and go somewhere else, and wherever that is, great. I'll support them. And I saw them doing great things. And, then when the opportunity came about when they were aging out, like I kind of reached out to those 2 and was like, "Hey, would you like to come back to Spirit and get in front of the tenor line? We'd love to have you back." Now that they were with us for a little bit, they went and did Boston and got that experience. Now, they get to provide that experience onto our members. So that's kind of where it started. And, Colin and I go back and forth all the time about, various things throughout the off season. He's like, "Hey, I have a couple people that aged out that are probably going to give you a call if you're interested in bringing some folks on." I said, "Absolutely." So some of them were kind of cold calls. It wasn't designed that way, but I think we had like 5 or 6 drummers that were in the 2023 Boston Drumline that ended up being some on our staff. Now, those aren't the only folks, of course.
Right.
Pretty healthy staff, but it just happened. You know what I mean? But it wasn't necessarily on purpose, but with anybody, if they're interested, and you do some vetting, you talk about them and see if you kind of plug and play, and they've been outstanding, and it's been a really good experience for our members. And I think it's important too, the members. I talk to my high school kids about this, dude. Ask your high school kids when they started marching drum corps. It's after we all aged out and well after it. You know what I mean? Like my high school kids didn't start watching drum corps until like 2022 or something. So like 2008 is like an eternity ago. So with our current staff and our current membership, I think it's important too, is they walk into the room, they're like, "Oh, I was watching, this video on your podcast, and that was like the center tenor, and now they're here. That's cool." I think if you can have that, and you put a team together where there's a mixture of experience and a mixture of age, I think you kind of get a great melting pot of all the best ideas. You know what I mean? So it was kind of, I want to say, it looks from the outside like we just kind of snatched like a third of the drum line. It just kind of, 2 of them, were former Spirit members, and then Peter Hill came on board, and Peter's awesome, and Judah Barrett came on, awesome, Adrian Gonzalez, like all these guys were fantastic for us. So it just ended up being just a lot of great hires and great folks, So, and you know what too, when they're on the road together, there's a friendship and a brotherhood there too, that we're all working for the same thing, and they all know each other. So when they're comfortable together, that's also good for our members too.
I was getting ready to say that's got to be kind of cool to like. I just spent multiple summers potentially with this core group of people, and now we're all just gonna we all know how each other talk, how we think, how we play, how we approach things. Like that whole camaraderie just has to translate right over to teaching together. It's got to be a really cool dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, and you have a mix of everybody. Like Thomas Young, I was talking about. Thomas is kind of our lead tenor tech. Thomas was a rookout at Vanguard in 18. But Thomas has been with me at Broken Arrow. He's from Owasso, which is a suburb north of here. And he came on board with us, and he's a Rennick person, but he's been with me long enough that he knows what I want in terms of the approach to the instrument. But like, he's going to bring invaluable, teaching experience, whether he knows it or not from there.
Yeah.
But also he's with me all the time, so he knows how I want it to be. So again, like we all have our different experiences and different ways of coming at things to try to get it to be the best possible educational environment for our members.
Absolutely.
Yep, for sure. All right, I think we have a couple phrases left here, a couple minutes left of this video.
This is one of those phrases where I wish went faster. It does have a little nutshell here, but I wish it showed another 8 to 10, 12 clicks.
A little bit more momentum. Yeah, because that's a moment too. Like obviously, depending on what the horn line is doing and dictating rhythmically, you can't just always just write a ton of oppositional rhythms to what they're doing. Like, oh, they're playing eighth notes, and we're just gonna ram triplets the whole time.
Yeah, and where we're staged and what we needed to do to finish the program, we had to make sure that we're writing to help the horn line too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. Real quick, I never asked. We never got to this earlier. I just thought about this again. How did the AQ vocal end up in your all's?
Honestly, that has kind of stuck around for a while. Like before I got to the drum corps. As far as I know, we don't have anybody from AQ in the drum line, but
Georgia
I know
thing.
there might have been
Georgia.
Yeah, and I know a lot of we have a number of kids who are from the area. Like our center snare. He's a Georgia Tech student, you know what I mean? So he lives in Atlanta. So like, I know there's a lot of, communal friendship there. And whenever we do it, especially in the Atlanta lot, all those guys go nuts. Right? It's just an homage to, again, like another Atlanta group. And they find a place to put the AQ vocal in every year.
That's cool that they've kept it around, even though there's been like a turnover from membership, crossover, and all that stuff. That's really cool. I like hearing about things like that groups are like, you know what? Yeah. We've done this for 20 years. Like, we're just going to keep doing it, even though the people that, you know what I mean? The culture's different, membership's different. It's really cool stuff.
Here we go. I feel like I made a comment about this when I watched the earlier video. Like, all right, here we go. Nice. This kid has really good beats. I like that accent.
Yeah.
This is the opening phrase again, right?
Yeah. Just with the coats on.
Yep.
It's the last thing we play before we go to the show.
And I thought I was being random bringing up the vocal again, yet rewarded. Always, never punished.
Right.
With the trench coats.
Yeah, that was the thing too, is with the way we were starting the show, we had to make sure that we gave them another opportunity to play that. So that was the last thing that they played in the lot. It's the first thing they're going to play in the show. So
Makes
we kind of
sense.
wanted to revisit that. So, you know, all that strategy of why we do what we do is in there. Like I remember there's an early video I think that you guys watched. We did a rep of chapter 5, which is like all at 120. It's like this Duke Ellington chart.
Yeah.
You guys are like, were they doing a parade tune or something?
I remember
So
that.
We stopped playing it in the lot.
All three of us,
Just
me,
because
TJ, and
it was
Evan, were like, "Is this a cadence? Is this? Are they working on?
Are they working on
is
the
4th of July
encore
soon?
too?
Like, is this an
But
encore
again,
chart?"
that entire chart was written at 120. So like, you have to be able to create something and make sure it has ebb and flow and momentum. And that was early season. We didn't do a show yet, so we had to play it. Like we weren't ready to just not play it.
Yeah.
Like, for the first week, I think we played it. Then we decided to not play it a lot anymore.
Yeah, we had something like that in 2010, like the Latin chart. We just stopped playing in the lot. And then in 2009, we always played the show in reverse. So like we played the closer and then went backwards to where the last thing that we played was the opener. So.
Yep.
Because you all in 09 came out of the gate swinging too. Like you just kind of in that back corner just started running and gunning. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was running gun like right away. Just so like it was the last thing we played. Actually, too, I remember in 2009, and they probably like banned it after that. But we got off the bus so we got on, warmed up Military Park, got on the bus, drove over to the stadium. We got off the bus outside Lucas Oil, and we ran the opener outside Lucas Oil, and then we went down the tunnel.
Wow. Okay.
So they probably were like, you can't do that anymore. But
well, you've seen some groups now start doing on-field warm-ups. Like, honestly, with how big of a gap there is between lot to show, I would do it. I'd want to do it.
I think cadets did that last year. They played their triplet rolls and then had the chexercise at the end.
Bluecoats did it this year. Yeah, Bluecoats did it this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend all groups do it. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Get your ears tuned to the dome.
Artistically, it doesn't always feel right. It just depends upon what are you trying, like what's the vibe, what's the mood, is it there's a lot of factors to consider. Mm-hmm. I wanted it just because I knew how aggressive the beginning of the show was, and again, like anything, you can't get everything that you want, but it was something I had an idea of how we could basically start an on-field and literally turn around in the middle of it or something and go right from the beginning to try to figure out and pace it. Like, okay, at measure 16, that's when like the count off starts or whatever. But I don't know, just different ideas, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't.
You have like a soundscape going or something or whatever. Cavaliers did a good job of that in 2011.
Yeah. Totally. I always liked that. Like that was cool, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, like that was an idea I had. It didn't make it. It's all good.
Hey, it's still in the memory bank.
Yeah.
Right.
So
maybe next year, maybe the year after. You never know.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess too, we want to connect. The success you guys had this summer. I think we said that in our reaction video earlier in the year too, that the leap that the ensemble and the overall core took, from 2023 to 2024 felt pretty significant.
Oh yeah,
I would say, to at least us as viewers and fans of the activity. You guys, I guess, are already deep into the thick of 2025 design and this and that and this and that. What's the next thing for your team? Have you announced auditions, packets, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so like I was telling you guys before, 23 and 24 was the first time we've had back-to-back competitive seasons since 2018 and 19. So we just feel like we're now able to start building something and get some momentum and create the identity that we've all been looking for. And I'll be fully transparent. Like when I first got to Spirit, I wanted to try to take the best of what I did when I was marching with Colin and how we played when I was marching at Cavaliers with Casella and that team. And I felt like, okay, if I can combine these, that'll kind of be a more unique way of approaching the instrument as a player and as a designer. And I think what ended up happening is that we just got gray versions of both. And I felt like after 2023, I wanted to try to find something that was as clear for the students as possible to understand what we were looking for. So a little bit more up and down, a little bit more of a simpler approach that doesn't have as much nuance in it. I don't want to say it's not a simple approach, but it's a little easier, I think, to comprehend and understand with how we're approaching the instrument. And I also wanted to kind of write to that too. So I'm one of my favorite things about drum corps. Number one is the students and their performance, and I learned so much from them. But I also love learning in the process and being able to try to get better at it the next year. So like I had all these thoughts in my head after 2023 about the direction we wanted to go. So I'll be honest, like the way that we played, the folks that were in front of it, that was another thing too. Let's get folks in front of them that can play that way at the highest level, so they know what it's supposed to be and they can be the best examples of it. But also like design wise, I wanted more exposure. I wanted to start the show with a percussion feature of some kind. You know what I mean? So like a lot of that was kind of calculated, and we kind of went into this product. I think as we go on from here, I want to build on that and continue to refine and improve. I definitely want to try to get as much member retention as we can. Drum corps is expensive, and guess what? It's getting more expensive next year. So I do have concerns about the longevity of our activity, and all three of us, we're still talking about this activity after we're out of it. So right. I want to make sure that we're always providing the best educational experience for the kids. And I always tell the members, like, hey, I'm in it every day from essentially like the week after DCI until we get to the next DCI, trying to do this the best that I possibly can. I'm going to give you everything I got. We're going to get people with you that can bring the best out of you and you can learn from. And hopefully, the results, we can't control that, but if we do the right things, we'll get some attention, and we'll be where we want to be, and be proud of the product at the end of the year. And hopefully that results in a lot of returning members. And it's really hard, dude. Like actually, this particular drumline only had 3 drumline vets in it from Spirit.
Oh wow!
3, 1 in each section. So the thing is, we've had some great recruiting pipelines. We have a great relationship with Western Carolina. A lot of the number of folks are there. We have a great relationship with JSU. That's where we do our pre-tour.
Nice. Didn't Spirit used to be Spirit from JSU? Wasn't that the name of the corps at one point?
Yeah, like mid 2000s. So that's where we do our pre-tour. So we have that kind of pipeline too. We get a lot of kids from Florida because we're a corps in the South. So
makes sense too.
We're fortunate, and we have a lot of kids that might go try out somewhere else, and then they come and try audition for us. And like I said, just trying to get. The big thing was, let's get an identity. Let's pick a lane. Let's go. Let's put all the chips in there. Let's create something that's unique to us. That other folks, when they watch these videos, they want to come check it out, and just continue to build. We have a really good thing going. I feel like we're just starting to get momentum moving forward. We have some things to fix. We're not where we are at. Where we want to be competitively as a drum corps. So we got some things to fix, but a bright spot for us this year was percussively where we're going. And the same thing with the front ensemble too. There's the front ensemble is a big part of that number, not just what we watched today, so it's that collaboration, but also trying to create a culture that members want to be a part of and stay a part of.
Heck yeah. I'm looking forward to what you guys come out with for 2025. Hopefully you get some vets that stay, that had a good experience, like you said. And it's not just about obviously competitively what you produce. You would like to do well competitive, because I think most of the people who do this activity are competitive by nature. I certainly am. But at the end of the day, you can't control that. And all you have, who was it that used to say, like, some instructors just like make it good for the DVD, which
I've heard that. Yeah.
My vid tech at Cavaliers, Waldo, Michael Newber, he always just talk about, when you look back in the DVD and the recording, that's what's going to last forever. You want to be proud of the DVD. You want to be proud of the video.
Yep.
And then, like you guys know, like it's about the experience together as members. That's what, like, when you guys get back together with the folks that you march with, you're not talking about like, remember we got an 18-3 on July 30th in Warrenton, Virginia. You're talking about like the memories and the experiences together. You know what I mean? So the culture that we're trying to build at Spirit and the percussion section is really important to me. I want them to support each other and love working together, and know that the staff is having just as much fun working together as they are playing and performing together.
Remember that time in New York when we traded a random dude on the streets like $3 and 4 menthol cigarettes for his mixtape? Like, I remember that, and like Lino and Andy Kim and all of them, and Andy Alfred probably remember that too.
Yeah, everyone's got their stories. It's about the experience for sure, and the relationships you build and make throughout. But no, very well said.
Well, sweet, man. Where can they all find you? What's the red carpet rollout?
SpiritofAtlanta.org. Audition packets are coming out, I believe, at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. We got some new exercises that we're throwing in there to kind of revamp a few things to get that a little more unique to us, and that the entire battery staff kind of had collaboration with. Some of the stuff we've already been playing, but there's some new things that are going to join the packet. Auditions are going to start in November in the Atlanta area. Those dates will come out, I think, as soon as we can get facilities, sign the contract kind of thing. We'll have a mixture of in-person auditions in the Atlanta area. We're talking about having 2 separate weekends to try to accommodate as many students as possible, especially high school students who are still doing marching band, and also college students who are finishing up their college football games, and all those kind of things that happen. We're also going to have a December camp. So we have 3 essential opportunities to come see us in person. I think it's really important that they not only that when they come to camp, but they can meet some of us and kind of understand a little bit of our approach and what we're looking for. Always, we have video auditions happening essentially from the time auditions go live. We're taking video auditions really until the drumline is set. And sometimes that's not until after April camp. So there are multiple ways to get involved and audition with us. They can go to the website right now and do an interest form to get in touch with us. And then they'll be the first people to kind of be notified of when we get new material and when auditions come out. Like I said, essentially they'll have 3 weekends to choose from to come down to Atlanta and hang with us for a Saturday. It's just a Saturday, like a 9 to 6 kind of thing. Nice. So it's nice and easy. They'll get a one-on-one audition. They'll do some things together. And then, after we go through that first round of auditions and do some videos, we'll do a callback camp in January during Martin Luther King Day weekend in Atlanta. And then, like everybody else, take February, March off. And typically we finalize the drum line typically right after the April camp. I'd love to do that sooner if we have the opportunity to do that. But also if I get a video or get an audition student in October or whatever, and they're just slamming, we're contracting, like we're going to do this thing, so we're really excited about the opportunities. And like I said, we really picked a lane this year to try to let's go in this direction. And I think that if you guys buy into this, that you're going to make a great impression on Spirit and make people want to come audition for you and start to consider us to come as their first choice.
Nice.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Very cool. All right, everybody, comment, like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, patreon.com, or the join button on YouTube, or agedoutpodcast.com. Grab a shirt or a logo sticker, Aged Out Fundamentals, drum every day. And Adam, this was great. We'll see everybody in the next one.
Again, thanks for having me on. Can't wait to do the next one.
For sure.
Yeah. Peace.